Hello, my lovelies. I'm Ginny O, the author with no last name, and today I want to talk about werewolves and toxic masculinity. So this video is inspired by a Beau of the Fifth Column video, Let's Talk About What Men Can Learn About Masculinity from Women. And he posted it on Sunday, and Beau posts about 3 to 4 videos a day, so I thought about doing this video in February and didn't think it'd still be topical, so I'm putting it up as an extra video this week. The link to Beau's video will be in the description below. In his video, he makes an aside to the debunked wolf study by Mac about alpha wolves, a wolf study debunked by Mac himself. I set aside my lurking social anxiety to comment to someone else's comment about how wolf packs are known as today, because as a werewolf person, I've done a lot of research on wolves and werewolves for my books, and this alpha pack mentality really irks me. Oh god, does it irk me. So while doing the research for my biker werewolf books, and any other books I end up writing about werewolves, I noticed that today's pop culture werewolves are really a combination of the 14th to 17th centuries werewolf trials and their demonization of werewolves by calling them cannibals, and literally having them make pacts with the devil, mixed with some later popular French stories, and this debunked Mech study of stranger wolves in captivity, and how he thought it would apply to how family wolves would act in the wild. In Mech's original study, the individuals in the packs of wolves weren't related to each other, and thus wouldn't hang out together normally in the wild. They couldn't get away from each other, so they had to create a system, a way of behavior to deal with this stress. Do you know how stranger wolves act like in captivity? Like people in prison. There's the leader, the followers, and the scapegoat. A false, rigid societal structure imposed on them by outside forces, where people are trying to gain power and some feeling of control over their lives by any means necessary, and they can't get out. This could be a prison of walls, or even a prison of belief. And the idea of the hierarchy in the pack, in a werewolf pack, didn't really appear in werewolf lore until after Mech's study. You can trace this change of the werewolf from the different legends to Universal's original takes on werewolves, to Werewolf the Apocalypse from White Wolf, to what we consider modern urban fantasy and young adult from Laurel K. Hamilton, to Blood and Chocolate and their many, many ripoffs, and back to Hollywood again with TV shows like Buffy, Teen Wolf, or Grimm, and movies like Underworld, etc. So in my view, because unless you loved wolves and knew about Meg's study, pop culture werewolves is how most people become acquainted with this idea of an alpha to omega social hierarchy and attach it to wolves to get this lone alpha wolf stereotype. The modern pop culture interpretation of werewolves usually has one or more of the following characteristics. They're control freaks. They have no intelligence in the wolf form, or the wolf is a secondary intelligence. They are always afraid of hurting/killing people as wolves, or consider themselves monsters. So at the same time, they have no control. Often there are anger issues attributed to the wolf. The leader is almost always a man. The leader can do whatever he wants, no matter how morally disgusting it is, and it will be protected or hidden. They have insanely organized pecking orders, which women usually are at the bottom. And then a lot of times these werewolf stories drop a huge amount of gender bias rules on top of it, and often include female werewolves can't have kids. If it's not female werewolves can't exist. Yuck. Or female werewolves can only be mothers and must give birth to actual litters of babies. Double yuck. Or they're anti-LGBTQIA+, and there can't be gay werewolves because other werewolves would kill them. Ew. Or the young adult favorite, we are werewolves and can never be part of human society, up to and including arranged werewolf marriages. Oh, good grief. Does any of this sound familiar outside of a werewolf context? At all. It does to me. It's toxic masculinity and patriarchy and feels very cultish. Pick a cult. Any cult. I can think about half a dozen off the top of my head. As werewolves became more popular and more prevalent in our culture, we've seen this alpha and beta terminology being embraced by certain sections of society and encouraged by capitalism of everyone has to be selling something, and amplified to 11 through our omnipresent advertising and marketing of, you want to be a real alpha man and get all the girls, you got to do this, wear that, and be this way. Which is the opposite of being a trend leader, but that's the fashion education talking. It's done to influence people, to try and promote a way of life that's rather limited and regressive, in my opinion. And it hurts the people who are living it as much as the people around them. It's toxic. Toxic items don't care who you are. They're just going to hurt everyone. Humans, animals, plants. These influencers use Mech's debunked study to justify their alpha and beta terminology. They spread the alpha wolf image even though Mech himself has asked the publisher to stop publishing copies of the study. And they won't. Because I'm sure saying, we're doing this because werewolves would get them laughed at, but if it's wolves, it's nature. Among a certain type, I guess, this alpha to omega type of terminology created a romantic and almost secure feeling of knowing your place type of society, of where someone was on the top and others followed that someone, and this appeals to people. It takes away uncertainty in their minds. They don't have to make decisions. Decisions are made for them. Despite the massive power imbalances and how easy it would be to manipulate people, and it sounds like a cult to me. This, if you get out of line, I'll kill you, type of control would naturally happen among a group of strangers who don't like each other but have no place else to go because they're in prison and can't leave, or don't know how to leave, or are afraid. There's a lot of fear involved in this toxic system. It's unhealthy. You have to wonder about the mindset of people who think this is good, and the idea that if you do this, you're not a real man, how it can really mess with the heads of everyone. Look, gender can't be taken away just because someone who identifies as male likes to knit. I know some sailors who'd like to talk to you. Being super masculine doesn't mean you have to be able to chop wood in one swing or rip it apart with your hands. I get it. Watching Chris Evans' gif of him pulling wood apart is fun, but that's not why we like Chris Evans or Captain America. We know that being buff is not actually normal and requires a lot of work and a certain diet, and if you aspire to it, that's pretty much all you're doing. And if you bulk in a certain way and start selling something, it's because your biology bulks that way you can sell that something. We see through this. And they've built an entire identity around working out. And to be honest, it's not really that attractive. We are attracted to Chris Evans because he seems like a humble guy who would wear comfy sweaters and bring you a blanket and a hot beverage of your choice when it's cold out. Yes, look, it's the difference between a men's health magazine and Red Book, with the same person on the cover, ripped in a t-shirt versus wearing that cozy, comfy cable knit sweater. The male gaze, the power fantasy gaze, and what they think women find attractive, versus the female gaze and what women really find attractive. To bring it back to Beau's videos, these influencers are telling men to do X, Y, and Z to get the girls, and it's own a big truck and a big gun and work out a lot, drink this beer, kill a wolf, or and telling you what to like and who to hate and feeding you big doses of fear of everything. They're putting these walls around you in order to control you. They've baited and trapped you and are trying to kill who you are as a person for money, pretty much. And they've done it based on a false premise that doesn't exist and gotten mixed up with the animal, with the myth and legend, aka the man-created monster. It takes a lot less work and energy to be authentic to yourself rather than endlessly chasing the moving goalposts of influencers who once you buy something, they have to sell you something else. So maybe if we have to use wolves as a group societal structure we can learn from, maybe we could use modern wolf science and look at how families of wolves act in the wild rather than stranger wolves who never hang out in captivity. Because y'all are so focused on family. That sounds like an upcoming video for me. Werewolves, modern wolf science, and family. Anyways, this probably wasn't as coherent as Beau, and a mite longer. Thanks for listening, take care of yourselves, bless, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video.